and those who follow in his footsteps till the last day. Usool al-Fiqh, our class, as you know, it is Usool al-Fiqh, and it would be very nice to just go over some points again as a reminder for ourselves. What's Usool al-Fiqh, and mainly why we are studying this, field of knowledge. First of all, let it be known that the ulama, they said it is one of the most, you can say even instrumental and influential in other fields of knowledge. The usul al-fiqh, the fundamental concepts or the principles and the methodology, of understanding, the overall fiqh is one of the most important, fields of knowledge in the deen. Okay. Why? Because based on this, a person or the seeker, the seekers of knowledge would gain, in-depth knowledge of how to deal with the evidences. And they would know and realize what does, what are the evidences? What are the sources of these evidences? What are the, when can we say this is a clear-cut evidence? When we can say this is, a general, evidence? When we can say this is specific, or this is, to the point, direct, or this is just an ijtihad. And the ulama, they said, he who gains the ability to deal with the evidences from the Quran and the authentic Sunnah and the ijma' and the qiyas, he would, recall, and he would have digested the meaning of usul al-fiqh. However, how to deal with them means how to understand them in light of the, the generality of Sharia, in light of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from his servants, to the best of his ability. No doubt, nobody can attain to the perfection, but there are degrees. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, knowledge to some ulama, and they were very grounded in knowledge, and some of them are less likely to be grounded in certain fields. Some of the fuqaha were, known to be memorizers of fiqh and, conveyors, we can say. They disseminate fiqh, but they cannot do any ijtihad. If you ask them about any issue, he can, right away, dictate to you or just lecture to you all of the aspects of that matter, with the evidences, with the sayings of the early ulama, with the sayings of the four, maybe khalifs of the Prophet ﷺ, with the sayings of the Salaf, with the sayings of the fuqaha, yet he would not know how to deal with such, for example, sometimes, such contradictory, sometimes views. However, he whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give a deep understanding into these subjects, and he would know how to nail them down and, implement evidences to the issues he's, discussing or he's studying, and how to practically put it in a nutshell. This is the person whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed with a deep understanding into usul al-fiqh. Not all the people they could come to know all aspects of these parts. And I'll just give you an example. when a person was asked, the first time he heard about the people landing on the moon, yani, what to say about such an issue from the perspective of religion? He would either say, I don't know, because something, you know, uh, might be true, might be false. Yet, who would be given the ability to say, okay, this is, based on the Sharia, we can recognize and realize that this might be possible or might be impossible. Yet, we have to know. Yani we still we are way behind uh, judging whether we can say it's true that they landed on the moon or it is not true they didn't land on the moon. And this is how this would be in accordance to what we uh, have maybe mentioned last time when the Sheikh Ibn Baz rahimahullah was asked, and he said if the moon is underneath towards the earth, towards our globe from the heavens, then yes, they could have reached it. But if it is above the worldly heaven, then it's impossible. And from where he cited upon this evidence, and how he recalled such evidence, subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, those ulama the ability to look into the matters from the perspective of Sharia. Same like, the how the doctor who's specialized and consultant in his field looks at a specific, you know, uh, medical issue from his perspective. Okay, it differs from specialty to specialty. Okay, we cannot get, for example, an illiterate person to look into that. Okay, after the wahy, after the Prophet ﷺ, nobody can look into such cases unless there is a wahy or there is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him knowledge. So the Sheikh recalled the evidence that the Prophet ﷺ, when he ascended to the heaven, it was he used to what? He used to be given permission to get out of or get to the through the first heaven, the worldly heaven, and then so on with Jibril alayhi salam. So he came to realize that this cannot be unless the moon is underneath the worldly heaven. Recalling such evidences and issuing a fatwa based on the evidence, this is the malaka, the ulama, they say the person was endowed an ability to recognize, recall, understand deeply the hadiths and you know uh, implement them in the specific issues. Okay, so this is one of the things that we have to be careful when we speak about usul al-fiqh. The other issue of usul al-fiqh is to differentiate between, as I said, the evidences. So he should realize and recognize what are the authentic evidences, clear-cut evidences, and the evidences that need to be looked in the light of such an issue. As we mentioned this, جمع الأدلة في قضية معينة, to collect and gather all of the evidences with regard to that issue, the issue in hand we are discussing. We have to gather all the evidences from the Quran and from the Sunnah of the Prophet. Now, if we cannot, have the ability to look, and study thoroughly and make, uh, look into the evidences as a whole, we will be limited in our views. Then after collecting the evidences, we would look into the evidences which are clear-cut in the issue, which is very specific about our subject, and the others which are, for example, it might indirectly, give us an idea about the issue, and we would look into the Sunnah, which is more authentic, to put it first, and which is less authentic, or if it is weak, we would put it aside. After that, we would look into the consensus of the ulama, the ijma'. What was the ijma' of the early Sahaba? May Allah be pleased with them. Was there a very clear-cut ijma' or not? We would look into all of this, and then if we cannot find, for example, in the evidences from the Quran and Sunnah and from the ijma', we would resort to the qiyas. And there is a clear qiyas, a clear analogy, okay? And there is a pseudo analogy. And this is the problem sometimes when people look into the qiyas. That's why he should be clear that there is the analogy is what we can say qiyas mu'tabar, considerable and acceptable, analogy, because a person should not, for example, confuse his qiyas. So as we mentioned, always with the parable or with the ulama give as a parable, saying, do not confuse eggplants with eggs. Okay, لا تخلط الباذنجان مع البيض. Okay, أو لا تخلط بين الباذنجان والبيض. And we give you an example to that a servant was told by his, master to go and buy, eggplants. Okay, and by the way, there is an eggplant, black and there is white. Okay, so regardless, I don't know. He brought the eggplants and he found that the door to the home closed, so he stayed out, and his master told him, why you didn't, throw it up the wall? So he said, I didn't, realize that. The next time he sent him after a while to buy eggs. When he brought the eggs, he found the door closed. He threw the eggs above the wall, and eggs, got, as you know, broken. He destroyed all eggs. He smashed them. Then his master told him, why you did that? He said, you told me last time, to throw the eggplants when I find. He said, don't confuse the eggplants with eggs. So these are the aspects of the evidences and looking into the evidence. Now, one of the useful or the benefits of this knowledge, of this field of knowledge, is to know Allah's rulings in every aspect and link it to also to reasons or wisdoms. And these reasons can be, looked when we make analogy to similar matters. Okay. Also, this field of science, Usool al-Fiqh, will really, form the fundamental concepts of our intellectual thinking, how we look into things, how we perceive the evidences, how we put together the, in a sound way, the sound intellectual, fundamental, thinking procedure would arrive to realize and recognize and put together the evidences of the Sharia in what we can say in the right perspective. Because for the person who's not understanding Usool al-Fiqh, what might happen? He might look into the evidences as if they are contradictory to each other, as if they are, against each other. And this is not at all, as we said, right, because the Sharia evidences should go together. Okay, so when we look into these evidences, we come to realize that they are all, they are all together. Okay. Now, when we look into the aspects, the third aspect, we mentioned three now, okay? The fourth aspect is to realize what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from his servants, from his creatures, from the wahi, and try to implement that, okay? Uh, because even Ibn Taymiyyah in his fatawa, he said the main goal of Usool al-Fiqh is to understand Allah's, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us and what the Prophet ﷺ was taught by Allah to teach us. Okay. Why? Because those are the two main sources of the knowledge. The rest, and it is, as we know, the whole way of life should be under, this. Okay. It should be in accordance to this. Now, also, the Usool al-Fiqh will make, what we can say, integrate and complement relation between the things that might be thought to be against each other. Like, for example, the reasoning and the textual proofs. Because the sound reasoning in no way can come against the revelation. This is Allah's creation, and the Sharia, the Quran and Sunnah is Allah's revelation, and no way this goes against the other. Now, also the opinions and the Sharia, the opinions of people should not go against the Sharia, okay? It should not go against the Sharia. And this is very evident, very obvious and clear. So these are the main, and let's just recap what we have taken. We said that Usool al-Fiqh is meant to equip and to give the person who learns it, the students of knowledge, the how to deal with the evidences, how to have the parameters and the ruler that would give him, how to implement the evidences, when to use the evidences, and what issue, whatever arising issue, he can look into the evidences and implement the evidences, and not overlooking also the ijma' of the ummah, not overlooking what the ulama did. Because we have a people nowadays, they want to say that everything which was, previously known has to be readjusted, reinitiated. And this is no doubt absolutely a strainess and deviation. After the Prophet ﷺ, after the companions, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established the deen, his deen, and perfected it. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has perfected and completed the deen for us. Okay, وأتممت عليكم نعمتي. I have given all of the, endowed you with all the bounties and the tools to get the ni'mah and to appreciate the ni'mah of the deen of Islam. وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that he was pleased with Islam to be our deen. And what was not known for the Prophet ﷺ, for the Sahaba, cannot be a deen today, whatever the people claim. Okay, so some people in the West now, they are calling that, the deen, the understanding of the Salaf was, somewhat not in depth an understanding of the text of Sharia. No way, okay, no way. But rather their understanding was, in light of the Sharia, especially whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, whom Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has raised, the three blessed generations. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, nothing in the Sharia, but it has basis, nothing in this dunya, any arising issue will have basis in the Sharia. Walhamdulillah. So this is the first. The second thing is to differentiate between the clear-cut evidences and the pseudo or unclear evidences. Okay, so that a person would gain his success in both worlds. Okay, now this is the second. The third is to, to form a way of thinking for the people of knowledge, to understand the Sharia and to nail them down and to implement them, whenever there is an arising issue. And, one of the main objectives is to understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from his servants, from his creation. Okay. And the fifth, okay, is to govern, it is a governor, the science of Usool al-Fiqh is governing the relations between what people would think, in the very first outset, that they are in antagonies or they are in contradictory to each other, like al-aql wal-naql, the reasoning and the textual proofs from the Quran and Sunnah. And we said that the textual proofs from the Quran and Sunnah, it is Allah's revelation, Allah's speech, the Quran, and Allah's revelation to his Prophet through which is Sunnah, which is part of the Wahi, which is part of the dhikr preserved. Okay, it cannot go against, Allah's creation, because Allah created, his creation in a very, accurate, precise, universal law, and his legal Sharia law must go in line with it. If there is a discrepancies, it is in the understanding of the people or in their implementation, not in the Quran and Sunnah or in the reasoning that got used. That's why Ibn Taymiyyah kept saying, العقل الصريح لا يناقض النقل الصحيح, or النقل الصحيح, the authentic, transmission of textual proofs cannot go against the sound reasoning. And why we clarify and say sound reasoning? Because some people, they don't have sound reasoning. Also, the difference, we have to know and realize what's the difference between the words in their pronunciation and in their meanings. When to understand this meaning from the other meaning. This is one of the relations that Usool al-Fiqh came to govern it and to realize it. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us a deep understanding onto that. Last time we were talking about al-am, the general, the general evidences, and we talked about also the al-khas, and we said that al-am is anything that encompasses every single entity of such, what I can say, what we are talking about. So if I say كل الطلاب, الطلاب, if I say all the students or all human beings, it means all human beings. Is there an exception? No exception. So this is a generality, okay? And nothing goes out of the generalities unless there is what? There is an exception, okay? Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the ulama, they said, no generalities in the Sharia unless there is an exception to it, except in a very rare situations. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, Wallahu bi kulli shay'in alim. So it's a generality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is well acquainted and knowledgeable of everything. Okay, the things that had happened in the very past, in the present, now, and the one to going to happen, the one that will be in the future, till till infinity. Okay, and not only that, the scenarios of things would have happened in another cases, how would it happen? Okay. And we said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala علم ما كان وما يكون وما هو كائن in the future وما لم يكن لو كان كيف كان يكون. Okay. Now al-khas, okay, is to specify something. Okay. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he said والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he said the humanity are all in loss. Okay. You'll find in some translations they put والعصر by the time. Okay. Or by the era. All humanity will be in loss, and they will put in between parentheses the disbelievers. And this is not true actually, okay? Because the word here, okay, means so general. All humanity will be in loss, with the exception, and this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made an exception of. And the person will have, share, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us, in such loss due to giving up some of the four qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to those whom He had made an exception. So He said, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. So if there is a defect in the Iman, he would have, a loss. And وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. If there is a defect, there is a fault, there's, flaws in the righteous deeds, then there is a problem, there is a loss. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. And they join in truth, they join each other in truth, and they join themselves, in patience and perseverance. Now, if there is a deficiency in any part of these, and no one is clear of that, there will be a loss. Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from such loss. Ameen. Now, we come to realize that the exception here is what? Is, takhsees, as we mentioned last time. And today we were to take the other mukhassas, inshallah, I hope we have time, which is, we said, al-istithna wa shart. Today, the next is the shart, okay? And the shart means the conditions of the, making conditional statements. So if you can read Sheikh Abdul Majid, which page we were in last time?
We finished 126, Sheikh. We have to start 127. التخصيص بالشرط.
التخصيص
بالشرط, yes.
طيب, which page? In page what?
127 halfway. Page 127.
127. Okay, you can start, inshallah. I'll look into the page and put it in.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. At-Takhsees bil-Shart. Specification by a condition. Definition. The word condition is being used here in its lexical sense, which is the provision upon which a rule depends. There are in meaning if and idha meaning when. There are in meaning if and idha meaning when. For example, if Zaid passes examination, give him a prize. The way in which the specification is made in this example is that it includes a particular case. That is, Zaid's lack of success from the general rule, and had it not been for the condition, it would have been necessary to give him the prize in all circumstances. Allah says in the Quran, وَإِذَا ضَرَبْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاهٌ أَن تَقْصُرُوا مِنَ الصَّلَاةِ. It translates, and if you travel through the earth, there is no blame on you if you shorten your prayers. The shortening of the prayers depends on fulfilling the condition which is traveling through the land. If it was not for this condition, then it would have been permissible to shorten prayers unrestrictedly, whether on journey or at home, but it specifies it only to journey. Would you like to explain,
Yes.
Sheikh?
Yes, inshallah. جزاك الله خير. طيب, the تخصيص بالشرط, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a ruling, and then he links it subhanahu wa ta'ala to a condition. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِذَا ضَرَبْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاحٌ أن تقصروا الصلاة. Sorry, there is a mistake here. Huh? There is no min. Huh? In the ayah, there is no min. So please note that. وإذا ضربتم في الأرض فليس عليكم جناح أن تقصروا الصلاة. So the salah can be shortened. So sorry. No, the ayah is, there is min. Sorry. وإذا ضربتم في الأرض فليس عليكم جناح أن تقصروا من الصلاة إن خفتم أن يفتنكم الذين كفروا. Inshallah, we will talk about the rest of the ayah later. Okay, we will come to them. But here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned that whenever we traverse the land, traveling, and if you travel through the earth, the land, there is no blame on you if you shorten your salats. Okay. The ulama, they said, either if and if, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it conditional, okay, that if you travel, so any travel here, one of the aspects of generality here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not mentioned long travel, short travel, comfortable travel, very difficult travel, okay. He gave it a general ruling. So that's why the ulama said any way we do traveling, if it is called a travel customary and people know that it is a travel, then it would be regarded a travel. Whether it is 1 hour travel, half an hour travel, for example, through the car, if you go from here to Taif, it will take from you maybe 2 hours. But if you take, if you go through an airplane, it will not take maybe half an hour, 30 minutes, sorry, 20 minutes. Okay, so this 20 minutes, it's regarded as a travel, and one can shorten the salat and even combine the salats if he wills. The condition here is travel. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, made shortening of salah that depends on the condition, which is traveling through the land. So if it was not conditional, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, there is no blame on you to shorten your salats, then we would realize and say, khalas, salah is all to be shortened, whether traveling or resident. But this is not true based on the ayah. So this is a takhsees, bishart. So the ulama, they said, a takhsees bishart goes like this, as he mentioned at the beginning here, when he said the word condition is being used in its lexical meaning, which is the provision upon which a rule depends. Okay, there are in meaning if, okay, in khiftum, okay, and either meaning when. Okay, example, if Zaid passes examination, give him a prize. So he won't be given the prize unless he passes the exam. If he doesn't pass the exam, he will not be given any prize. The way in which this specification is made in this example is that it includes a particular case. Okay, and takhsees, why it is so specific? So it doesn't say if anyone passes the exam, give him a prize. If Zaid only, so it gave, takhsees. Okay, takhsees to Zaid. Okay, and takhsees to the situation. Okay. So this he said Zaid's lack of success from the general rule, and had it not been for the condition, it would have been necessary to give him the prize in all circumstances. And if someone says, give Zaid a prize, but he made it conditional. If Zaid passes the exam, give him a prize. Okay. So we come to realize this, and this is known, but it is to give, for example, Salah in this ayah actually, and the ayah afterwards talks about the Salah at the times of fear, or when the Muslims are in expedition or in a battle with the enemies, how to do Salah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave another shortening of Salah, as will come maybe with us, or as you have studied in Fiqh in general. طيب, you carry on inshallah Sifah, or we stop here and next week we go to a Sifah?
We can cover that. We can cover that Sifah inshallah, Sheikh.
Are you with us?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, only that paragraph will complete inshallah. You can't hear? You can hear, Sheikh?
Anything? Can you hear? Can anyone hear?
I can hear. Yes, I can hear.
Yes, we can hear.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can't hear anybody. I don't know. Maybe it's my problem then. I have to go out and come back.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Let me go out and come back, inshallah.
But we can hear you.
Now I can hear you, inshallah. Okay, Sheikh Abdul Majid, carry on. Takhsees بالصفة.
Takhsees bis-Sifah. Specification by a quality description. This type of specification requires. 1 second, I have posted.
Take your time.
Yeah, okay. This type of specification requires that the condition clause be contiguous with its apodosis, as in the cases of exceptions. The meaning of Sifah, the description, is its linguistic meaning, not the adjective as known by grammarians. So it includes description of a condition adverb denoting place or time or a specification, etc. In most cases, the Sifah comes as a specifier of the thing described that is before it, and sometimes it can come before, as in the case of a genitive constructive joining the Sifah description to the Mawsuf, the thing described. Best thing we stop here, Sheikh.
طيب خلاص. طيب then even since only still a few minutes, well, I'll give the time for the brothers to ask, and next week inshallah we can discuss Takhsees بالصفة, because we have to at least to cite upon some examples. It will take time, and I have already exhausted most of the time. طيب, if any brother has a question, you can ask inshallah, whether what we have mentioned about Usool Fiqh in general, or what we have taken, in Takhsees, with the sharp.
Can I ask another general question, Sheikh?
If there is nobody who is asking, go ahead, inshallah.
All right. Regarding, having dogs in the houses, and I know that there are exceptions, you can have a dog for guarding purposes. Otherwise, the qirat of the good deeds will be every day deducted, something like that. So today it has become a fashion for people to have, very hybrid Alsatian white dog, walking on the street and all that. When we tell them and they say, no, we are keeping it for guarding the house. So does that comes under that hadith, Sheikh, or it is not allowed?
Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who knows, whether those people are keeping it for such purposes or not. But unfortunately, it's just an invitation to the enemies, Allah understand. And as you said, they are buying very fancy dogs for like pets. And if they would claim such, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge them. Alhamdulillah, we should, pass the advice to them and tell them that what they are having, they should be careful about. Not only that, one of the aspects that the people, the medical field is facing, not here, at least in Egypt, they are finding new and lot of diseases due to the intermingling of dogs with dogs, people with dogs. And it's a problem because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given everything its place. So the dogs, they have their own, places to be kept in. And those people, they are not keeping, these dogs outside to guard them, unfortunately. They are keeping that in their homes. Guarding what? They are playing with them, huh? So sometimes if we find this person is inshallah very easy, we can handle with him and he would be very close to give the advice. We should tell him, where do you keep this dog? Outdoor, outside to, to guard you, or you are keeping it at home. If you are keeping it home, be careful, okay? Be careful, okay? Even the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say? He said in the hadith that the angels will not enter a home which this home, there is a dog or there are pictures. And we are, as you know, Allah musta'an, we are afflicted with pictures and everywhere and images. And those people are getting the dogs inside for no reason. If you are really saying that this is for hirasa, for guarding, you would be keeping it outside or by your doors and giving it, it's, small, what I call it, box or small, house for it. But keeping it home and saying it is guarding, I cannot imagine this. Even if someone says, no, I'm keeping it for, for hunting, the people who have hunting dogs, they don't keep them inside their houses. This is known facts. So we should not start to bullish such act. Unfortunately, many people, what they do, they keep it home, playing with it like a cat. So they are using it as a pet, not guarding. If it is guarding, he will put it by his doors, outside the house, in the garden. But those people, they are not doing that. Most of them, okay? If not all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them to the way most pleasing to him. And we should, at least indirectly, tell them that if you are keeping it home, then it is not guarding. Guarding what? You are guarding the dog, not the dog guarding you. Inshallah, I hope it's clear. Any more questions, brothers?
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh.
I mean, clear, inshallah, and the point is clear.
Yeah, clear, Sheikh, clear.
Alhamdulillah. Right. Any brother who has a question in the class or outside the class, we still have a couple of minutes if you like. By the way, the keeping the dog home, the Prophet ﷺ, without, justification and reason, the ajr and the reward that a person might get diminished from his deeds is tremendous. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, qirat min ajr. Every day, like a mountain, okay, a big mountain of weight of good deeds will be taken off his deeds. So is it worthy to keep a dog home? If is, those people are, real about what they say, they would keep it, outside. Yes.
Salaam alaikum, Sheikh. Related to this, in future, in some countries, they are having robots to help
Yeah.
you, and they are like human shape.
Mm.
What is the ruling on this one? Is it allowed to keep like that?
Wallah, if it is enough in the faces like a human being, then it's, it applies, the rule applies that it's forbidden, but it can be a robot shape, even if it was, for example, if it have, it cannot be figured like a human being. Some ulama, they would accept that, but if it is, with, like Sophia, given our nationality, it's a problem, okay? Allah understand. This is a problem, because this is not, it looks like the statues, or it looks like the forbidden things. We can keep it home, but not giving it a shape of a human figure if it is really serving the purpose. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. طيب, جزاكم الله خير. The adhan is called now.
Yes, yes.
We conclude, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you for your attentive listening. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نعوذ برضاك من سخطك وبمعافاتك من عقوبتك وبك منك لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير.
آمين آمين وإياكم. السلام عليكم.